What up, what up, what up? What's going on, Kingdom Diplomats? Hope you guys had a great weekend. About to get started in the next 3 to 4 minutes. 3 to 4 minutes. Hey guys, if I were you, I'd grab your Kingdom Constitution, the Bible. And if you're religious, don't disappear. Keep watching. I got some things that I want to go over that I know that's going to shock you if you're first time listening to this. If not, then it's good to hear it over and over and over and over again. All right. So I will be back here in the next, looks like about 3 minutes. Again, grab your Bible, notepad and pen. And I will listen to this at least 3 times. Be back. All right, guys. 1 to 2 more minutes. 1 to 2 more minutes. Feel free to shoot out. Share this with friend, family, neighbor. What up, JC? What's good with you? How you doing, my brother? All right, guys. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Let's go. I hope y'all come ready to learn. Ready to learn. Raka, what's up? What's up? My brother or sister? All right, all right, all right. Shout out to Hodge. Hi, Hodge. Hopefully I pronounced that right. What's up, people? Hope you guys had a great weekend. It's yours truly, Tyreek, Kingdom Diplomat. Hope you Kingdom Diplomats out there are doing well. I know a lot's been going on, a lot of your families and friends. Obviously, time still keeps ticking, right? So hopefully you guys can see me pretty well. You can see the whiteboard a little bit, I'm sure. Yeah, you can see the whiteboard. So I'm going to go switch back and forth here and there as I see fit. So again, I hope you guys are doing well. Hope you had a great weekend. Hope everybody's safe. Hopefully everybody's healthy. If not, I'm thinking probably towards the end, man, we can petition the king for whoever. You can just put in the chat box, because I know there's a lot of people out there that have a lot of situations going on financially, in all different kind of ways. You know, a lot of people are dealing with depression. Kids are dealing with schoolwork, a lot of stress, work. There's a lot of things going on financially in this country and around the world that are affecting a lot of people. Obviously, if you've been paying attention, no matter where you guys are on the 7 continents, my cousins and brothers and sisters out there, hopefully, there's a lot of people that are being persecuted for what they believe in. And there's a lot of people doing a lot of really good things, out there. So, but also there's a lot of people doing a lot of horrific, bad things. But if you need some prayer at the end, just put in the chat box. Obviously, this is something that everybody else can view. But if you have something that you would like for me to pray for, I would definitely petition the king, because you got to bring the king the law, right? Because kings are subject to the law, right? All right, so if you're new in here, welcome, welcome, welcome. I love saying that because I truly, truly mean it. This educational and entertainment purposes only channel that I created, called Kingdom Diplomat, is for you, right? And I have a teaching gift. That's just one of my gifts that I found out that I have. But I would say this to each and every one of you out there. What up, Munoz? Victor, what's up, champ? Mima, what's going down? I just want to say that I appreciate you guys following me, and I know you're getting really, really good information. If you know about my background, I'm just going to give you a quick 30-second. I have a helpmate. I've been married for, 23 years now, going on 24. And 4 beautiful, awesome, out of this world kids, and all different type of ages from 16 to 28, and they're sharp, upward mobile, and so as you can imagine, going through that with the teenage years and the 20s and everything like that, let's just say it elevates your level of respect for your parents. So if you're out there and you do not have any kiddos, I promise you, when you do, right? Number 1, hopefully you do it the right way. Number 2, when you do, you'll have an utmost respect for your parents. It'll go through the roof, right? Because let's just say I wasn't always I would say I overall was a pretty good kid, but got away with a lot of things. Very sneaky. But all in all, I tried to do my best, right? So, but anyway, so shout out to all you parents out there. Shout out to all you siblings. Shout out to all you grandparents and out there, great grandparents also too. Love you guys. And man, I tell you, there's just a lot of love in my heart. And love is not a feeling. Love is a person, right? And hopefully you caught what I just said. So, but if you followed me last week, I'm not going to be on here long. I don't know why I say that, because sometimes I end up doing that. Yeah, you guys like my I didn't even wear this thread before, but y'all like this? This little, that's my Vineyard Vines, man. Y'all like this color? Put a yes in the chat box. No, no no's. Okay, no, just kidding. Yeah, I mean it's fleece time of the year, right? It's getting colder. I don't know if you guys know this, but we just moved into a mini ice age about 5 or 6 years ago. Every 214 years, it's going to get colder and colder and colder. So hopefully you're thinking about that and planning, because you know that food cannot grow in hard soil. So wherever you are, hopefully you're preparing for that, right? You ever look at the ants? Don't kill the ants like I did when I was little. I didn't understand the purpose of ants and why God created the ants. But if you ever look at the ants, obviously they are worker ants and they have a queen, right? Anyway, um, so with that being said, actually, let me put this on vibrate. Okay. Turn it down some. All right, here we go. So when you look at the ants in Proverbs, even King Solomon, who was the richest king that ever lived in the natural, right? He was, in today's dollars, he'd be a trillionaire. Matter of fact, he had so much more money than what's his name, Elon Musk. He make Elon Musk look like a bag boy in the grocery store. Nothing wrong if you bag groceries, right? You got to start somewhere, right? But when you look at the ants, nobody has to tell them. They know innately to get prepared for certain things, right? Winter is coming, okay? So a matter of fact, just to kind of give you a perspective, this is just some of the educational knowledge I pulled out and studied a little bit and pulled out here or there. The last ice age was 215 years ago. So Egypt, right? And Egypt, desert, dry, in many areas and everything like that. Did you know that back then that they had to import furs? That's how cold it was, right? So you can imagine that. So we're about 5 or 6, 7 years into that. So just remember that. So if you plan on moving and everything like that, you may want to pray about it, may want to think about it. You got to go somewhere where where you can grow food yourself, right? Make sure you don't get those GMO seeds, and also, or go places to where there's, places where, food can be grown in the neighborhood and everything like that. So that's just a side note. Also, too, check out the Farmer's Almanac, too. They're about 90%. History-wise, I think they go back at least 100 years. I think as much as 150. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But they're usually about 85, 90% right and everything like that. So anyway, what's up, CT? So, love you guys. All right, let's get into this. So if you followed me last week, was anybody on there last week? Just put the number 1 in the chat box if you were on last week. 1 in the chat box. Okay. All right. So last week, my title was What Happened to My Programming? So I explained to you, just give you a quick synopsis of programming. So you know that obviously you guys are looking at me on the laptop, the phone, maybe you're in the sky, maybe you're underground, maybe you're somewhere, maybe you're underwater watching me, maybe there's some type of technology you can see people underwater or something like that. I don't know. They're probably out there somewhere, right? Well, anyway, each technology has a programming. Somebody had to program it, right? And so when you look up your programming, okay, if you ever done a study, this is a little small study. You got AI, no excuses, right? You can type in brain and all the functions of the brain and everything. So our brain has hundreds of trillions of cells, right? There's a function of that, right? So that brain had to be programmed, right? So innately, when we're first born, right, we don't know anything, okay? So we just kind of react, based upon the environment that we're in when we're born, right? We see our parents, you sure is ugly. No, I'm just playing. That was The Color Purple, if you don't know what that movie is. That's a throwback right there. I just kind of aged myself there. But anyway, so as a baby, we just assimilate our environment, right? Assimilation has everything to do with, so recently we got some work done on the house, and our contractor, um, we got to talking and everything, and you know, I told him that I was in high school. I did like 2 years of Spanish, so I just knew a few words here or there. But it's one thing to learn from a teacher and out of a book, as opposed to being in a country that speaks Spanish, right? And so that's called the law of assimilation. And when you step into that environment, actually your brain is constructed. That's how the king constructed our brain to be exactly like his. What do you mean exactly like his? Well, what did I say last week and the week before that? Genesis 1:26. Let us, talking about the Trinity, make mankind, the species of mankind, male plus female equals mankind, in our image, right? So it's one God, but he, in the role of creation, which is called an anthropomorphism, he wanted to reveal himself in three different dimensions. So if he's showing himself in three dimensions, even though he's one God, right? Let's say water, steam, ice. You see what I'm saying? Three different forms, but one situation, right? So with that being said, he wanted to expose himself like that. So when you look in the mirror, you're not looking at, see, when I look in the mirror, right, I can see myself in the camera lens, right? But when you look in the mirror, when I look in the mirror, we're just seeing one part, a third of that dimension, right? Now there's 10 dimensions. I don't have time to get into that. I don't even know the other 7, right? I probably can recollect maybe 4 or 5, but there's actually 10. But anyway, so those 3 main dimensions, I can only see this dimension right here, the physical dimension, right? When you look in the mirror. See, most people on the planet, we were programmed that when we look in the mirror, that's us. That's not true. See, the word spirit means wind, okay? You can look it up yourself. It means wind, right? You can feel the effects of the wind because we're in this body, but it actually means spirit. So I have trillions of cells in my body, okay? Now, the real me is on the inside of this body. The real you is on the inside of this body, and I have a soul, right? The seat of my emotions, right? All the different spectrums of emotions that we encounter, right, during life. Well, within that seat is called the soul, okay? Sucre in the Latin, soul. So if you're by yourself and you're not associating, what you're doing is you're cutting off a third, okay? 1/3 of your dimension. So what does that do when you cut yourself off from socializing, right? It cuts you off, and it if you you ever seen somebody that lost a leg, lost a finger or something, they just got a nub there, a physical nub, although they actually have a spiritual finger, you just can't see it because our eyes are open to that realm, right? Unless you step out of this body, then you can see the whole spiritual realm. Oh, and by the way, the spiritual realm is way more busier than the natural realm. I can assure you of that, right? And some of you out there probably have stories that you can tell us about. You know, I have some stories also too. At some point in time, I'll bring up at the appropriate time when I feel a release to do so. But I've been told, you know, stories where people have seen things in the spiritual realm where God has opened up their eyes, or the King has opened up their eyes, and they can actually see. You know, actually, I know one person, shout out to my boy, MC, he told me he has a gift to be able to see certain things in the spiritual realm, certain spirits, good and bad. But that's a whole nother topic for another day. Okay, now, so getting back to what I was talking about. So programming, my point is that there's something called the law of assimilation. Now, what does law stand for? Can you guys tell me what law stands for? Go ahead and put in the chat box, law. What is the acronym of law stands for? Okay, let me help you. Land, you should write this down. Land, air, water. If you're hard of hearing, land, right? I remember how to do that. No, it's LAND. Land, air, and then water. Okay? TER. Yeah, your boy was telling it like that, right? So I remember that. Okay. Now I have some people in my family that are partially deaf. Okay. Now, so the law of assimilation, as little kids, we just assimilated our background, right? Our We assimilate the things that we looked at, we listened to, the things, the words that people said to us, right? When we got old enough, the thoughts that came through our mind, right? Did you know that adults think, I think if I remember correctly, it's about 1 to 2 million thoughts per day, right? Constantly thoughts coming through our mind, right? Well, there's 3 different sources, okay? Should I go over them again? Maybe I should. I haven't done that in a while. The first source of thoughts come from your mind, right? Your 5 sense realm, okay? Your 5 senses. Remember, we're in this body, we have a soul, so we're in the physical realm also too. We're in 3 different dimensions, right? So in this sense realm, we have the 5 senses receiving, what is it? Feel, smell, taste, eyesight, right? Hearing, okay? And then you receive thoughts through your what? Also through your mind, right? And they all kind of come through your mind. See, they're interchangeable. That's what I wanted to say. Spirit, soul, and body, they're all interchangeable. They receive thoughts on 3 different realms. So you have to keep this in mind, right? We live on 3 dimensions or in 3 dimensions at one time. That's amazing, right? When you think about that, okay? So now with that being said, I want to get into this week's topic. So that was last week's topic, right? So I'm sure you would agree that where everybody is right now in their relationships, in their marriages, in their finances, in every area of life, we are where we are based upon our assimilation of what? Our environment, right? Now, my question to you is that according to the kingdom constitution called the Bible, remember the Bible is not a religious book, okay? A king is not a president. A king is not a prime minister. You have to remember that when I'm talking about a king. A king is not elected. A king is not voted out, right? A president, a prime minister is elected and voted out. A prime minister and a president is under a what? Democratic republic, right? Or republic or democracy, right? No matter where they are in the world. And the reason why a lot of people don't understand kingdoms, right? See, I didn't grow up in a kingdom, right? Although the 13 colonies were part of the UK kingdom, right? United Kingdom. But most of us weren't born under a kingdom, so we have a democratic Greek mindset. I like to say, see, the Romans were fighters, right? They were violent, right? They were Bruce Lee-like. They come out, whoosh, 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 right? And they just slaughter everybody and they go on and take all the resources and move on to the next one. But it wasn't until the Romans, who were fighters, right? They were elite of the elite, right? And they destroyed the Greeks, right? Because the Greeks were philosophers, you know what I'm saying? They were all had the robes and everything. They philosophized this and philosophized that. And I don't even know if that's a real word, but anyway, I just made up another word, right? Actually, that's more real than you think it is, right? But anyway, so once they conquered the Greeks, what happened? What did Caesar do at that time? Normally what they did before was, guess what? They just ransacked everything, took all the resources, slaves and everything like that, right? Murdered whoever they needed to do, right? Took over that territory or just went back home to Rome. But when they assimilated the Greeks' scrolls, what Caesar did is he ended up turning into not a democratic republic or a democracy. He ended up turning into a kingdom. And that's why the King Christ, that's the anointing, that's the anointed one, that's the second part of the Godhead, Christ the Creator, right, the Lord, okay, that's why Christ had to come back in the form of Yeshua, right, Yeshua HaMashiach. Some people know him as Jesus, but it's Yeshua, right? So with that being said, that's why he came during that time of the Romans, is simply put, is because it was the right setting, okay? The right setting, right? If Yeshua had came today, we would think he was the craziest dude that ever existed, right? Because the words that he spoke last 2,000 years ago, plus years ago, trying to speak that today, right? In the vernacular, how we understand it, okay? It wouldn't make sense, right? So obviously the king, he knows what he's doing, right? Christ knows what he's doing, right? So that's why he came, just in case you didn't wonder. I wanted that for years and finally learned that by just keep digging and allowing the Holy Spirit to download and reading and everything and finally download, right? So that's how I want you to look at it. Your brain is a super, super duper computer. Never can be, it can be copied to a certain degree. That's where we get the technology for the phones, the technology for rockets, the technology for this and that and everything. Scientists get it from here. Now, check this out about scientists. Listen, don't be, I love scientists. It doesn't matter, good, bad, the ugly, or whatever like that. I love the person, but I hate what a lot of them do. Because a lot of them, in some ways, are full of pride. See, you have to understand the term and what that actually means as a scientist. Scientists are basically people who found out something and started digging into it. They discovered it, right? So it's not like the creator. Are you listening to me? Right? It's not like the creator, right? So we know the second part of the Godhead, Christ, means anointed king, also is Lord. It means owner and ruler. It means creator, created every human being, even if you're lost in whatever religion that you're lost in. I'm not part of any religion. I already told you that before. Just keep listening. If you're religious, keep listening. I'm going to show you how to get unreligionized. I'm going to show you why you're still in bondage in many different areas. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not perfect in many different areas. I'm being reprogrammed, right? Pay attention to those words, because when you read the Constitution from Genesis to Revelations, you'll see a lot of the word re, especially in the New Covenant. Re, again. It means again, okay? So that means go back to the book of Genesis, okay? Now, let's go ahead and delve into this. So mental health, okay? I just need to tell you that over the last 20-something minutes, I need to lay the foundation, because I'm going to go through this quick. So write fast, think fast, okay? All right, now, so mental health. Now, I told you, see, this is one of the biggest reasons and the biggest problems that we have on this planet, mental health. Why do we have mental health problems? I just laid the foundation. I told you. It's because of the environment. Now, going back to Genesis, see, I'm going to be using that as a reference. Genesis means the beginning. It's in the beginning, okay? Now, I'm not talking about the earth, okay? The earth is probably millions and billions of years old, but I'm talking about us, mankind, the species. We all came through one man called Adama, or Adam, right? Which means dark, reddish earth. Look it up in the Hebrew, okay? And that's where all of us came through, the first man, okay? Including woman, man with a womb. So if you didn't know that, I'm going to repeat that again. That's the doorway to this planet, okay? See, it's all about law, guys. Law. Laws are what protect us, right? You have spiritual laws. All spiritual laws that the king spoke out of his mouth, right? Created all the natural laws. See, that's why homosexuality, you don't have to bring anything up about God, right? About the king at all, Christ at all. You know why? Because just looking at it naturally, we know when you have a automobile, right? And you got to go get gas because the manufacturer says in the manual, put in unleaded gasoline only. Right? And that's what you do. You obey the lawgiver. Are you listening to me? The manufacturer, right? That's why I like to revert. I like to revert to or reference the King, Christ, as the manufacturer, right? He creates something out of nothing. But is it nothing? Just because it's spiritual that we can't see it doesn't mean it's not nothing, right? Okay? So, all right, I want to stay on track here. Okay. So when you put that gas in there, you could say to the manufacturer, let's say Ford or Toyota, I don't care what you say, manufacturer. I'm going to put orange juice in my vehicle. What did you just do? You actually violated the manual, the manufacturer's mind, and guess what's going to happen to your vehicle? Put it in there a few more times. Next time, put milk in there. Put pickle juice in there, right? Not gasoline. Guess what happened to your vehicle? You're going to be walking, or you're going to be paying somebody gas money, Uber or something like that. It's going to cost you more money and frustration. Why? Because you didn't obey the manufacturer. Okay, so the Bible is a kingdom constitution, and the manufacturer, right? The second part of the Godhead, right? At some point in time, I'll reference the Father and the Holy Spirit, because there are three different roles. You got to remember that, right? You're a three-part being. You're spirit, soul, and body. But the King, he created everything, right? Okay. Now, why did he do that? Okay. Write this down. Three things. Write this down. This is what the Constitution is about. When you're trying to explain something to your husband or your wife, and I really don't like using those terms, because those terms are actually that man created. Because there was a patent made for marriage, marriage license to make money off of people, right? It's actually mate and help mate. Look in the book of Genesis. You get the right version. Mate and help mate. You see that? Male and female. Did you hear what I just said? Male and put the fee, okay, that makes mankind. Man, I'm going on the roll right now. Okay, see, this is the stuff you need to know about you. If you don't know this stuff about you and your makeup and everything like that, anybody can steal your dream. Anybody can steal your vision that God put inside you. Anybody can make you believe something that you shouldn't be believing, right? Remember, you have to understand that Satan, normally known as Lucifer, this is all in the Constitution. Look at it, right? He's mentioned several different times. He used to be the head of the Department of Culture. That's why he was the head of music, worship, right? Worship. Now, we weren't created for worship, although we worship the King, right? But see, there's other things in worship. I don't have time to get into that. This is why we were created. This is why you were created, ma'am, sir, Mr. and Mrs. Christian, Mr. and Mrs. Muslim, agnostic, atheist, Rastafarian, Hindu, all the other religions out there. Keep listening to me. This is why the Bible is not a religion. Three things. The Bible is about a king. It's about his kingdom. And it's about his offspring called mankind. It's just three things. Very simple. We complicate stuff. And why we complicate stuff is we get the help of Satan. Why? Read the Constitution. He tried to do a coup. A coup is not a religious word. A coup, you've heard of that in government terms, is where you have a level of an agent that tries to take over the king, or let's put it in the natural vernacular. A coup is kind of like if you have one side that's trying to take over the other side. Maybe the Republicans have Trump in the House, and let's say the Democrats do a coup, okay? Or vice versa, right? That's called a coup, right? They work behind the scenes. They work with intelligence agencies. They all try to do a coup. So that's not new. You think it's new to us in the natural realm, but this happened who knows how long ago, right? There could be hundreds of thousands of years ago. I don't know the whole vernacular, right? As far as the earth is concerned, but I do know as far as human beings on this planet, we're about 7,000 years, okay? So getting back to that coup, that's actually a law-based word, okay? So yeah, I told you, all right? So he tried to do a coup, and he convinced a third of the angels. So I don't know how many angels. Maybe I didn't read it. Maybe I looked over it. Maybe somebody else out there knows it. Let's just say there was 100 million angels that the Creator created, okay? So that's 33 million angels that are now demons, right? Demons, denomination. Did you catch what I just said? Demons, denomination. Yes, that's the root word of it. See, this is what happens when you learn a lot of things, right? When you start digging deep, okay? You need to learn the origin of words and what they actually mean, okay? Now, so those demons, another word you can say is devils, diablo. That means penetration. What are they trying to penetrate? Here, right? Why? Go back to Genesis. I'm referencing Genesis because you got to go to the beginning. If you're right here, if you look chronologically, say this is the line. Let's say this is when we all started, Adam, right? We all came through Adam. Let's say this is us right here towards the tip of this pen. Okay, you follow me? And all these generations, our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, all that back down through here, through the ages to the beginning, right? Okay? Now, check this out. So because of what Adam did, right, he rebelled, okay? He rebelled. He sinned. That means anarchy, rebellion, secession. That's another word. Or you can say, what's the other word for it? It's treason. That's what it is. Treason. Okay, high treason. Let me ask you a question. In a religion, especially the top 4 religions, can you commit high treason? You can't. All this is in the Bible. You say, man, how did you learn this stuff? Listen, it's the law of integrity. Okay? It's called actually the law of holiness. Holiness, holy, holiday, holy. See, you didn't know that, did you? Holiday means holy day, right? Now, not everything that we celebrate is actually holy because it's been, you got to remember, we grew up under the Greeks, right? The Greek mindset, the Roman mindset. The Greeks were fighters. They're violent. The mindset of the Greeks were, if you don't look like me, if you don't have blonde hair, blue eyes, thin lips, sharp nose, right? Fair skin. If you don't look like me, then you're my slave, right? So that's why you have so much racism. That's why mankind is butting heads and everything like that. That's part of it. That's just the external part, okay? The internal part, as I said before, is that if Adam's back here, he rebelled, he gave his authority over to who? Satan, okay, by default. Now, why, have you ever thought about this, guys? How come Satan, fallen angel, who is the God of this world system, not the planet, he's not the creator, and he's not powerful than the creator, right? But here's why it seems like it. Here's why people sell their soul a lot to Satan. It's because they go by what they see. See, he's been stripped in Genesis of what? Go in the Constitution, or you can run a reference, look online. There was an angel, right? I'm trying to give you a perspective, so before I hit this punchline of mental health, okay? Angel took out over 200,000 people in hours, right? Now, the town that I grew up in at the time was probably about 250,000 people. So that angel, if that angel was not stripped of its power, could destroy every human being in that, all mankind in that city. I'm just trying to give you a scale to understand the gravity of what I'm saying. Okay, are you listening to me? All right. Now, being that he could do that, flip it over to the negative side. Now, angel is the positive side, right? They're still under the king. They still obey the king, and they still obey the king's word in the Constitution. So if you're born again, if you're washed in the blood, if you met the king personally and you're part of his kingdom, you have power and you have authority. Now, here's why a lot of people are warlocks and witches and do voodoo and try to cast spells and all kind of things on people, right? And that's all through the language, but I don't have time to get into that. Here's why. It's because Satan gets people. Remember I said right here, Adam rebelled. So Adam had authority over this planet and power over this planet. Why? Because the king put us, a spirit, took us out of himself and put us in the natural world. Now we got authority, we got power, right? So guess who else did he put inside of Adam, right? He put the governor, the Holy Spirit. See, the third part of the Godhead, okay? He's the power, right? He's the power. You ever seen, look up, I want you outside of this during the week, look up Bruce Lee's 1 inch punch. I watched it. They filmed it back in the early 80s, I think, or 70s. 1 inch punch. The dude was only 5'7". He was 135 pounds. Are you listening to me? 5'7", 135 pounds, but did 10,000 push-ups a day, or 1,000 push-ups a day, 1,000 sit-ups a day, 1,000 of these a day for years. And the dude was built like a like titanium, right? Reinforced titanium, okay? So he has a 1-inch punch, and he can 1-inch punch a person and knock them down. A pretty big person. When I watched the video, it was like, whoa, right? Just in that 1-inch punch, right? From here. It was amazing watching that. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay? All right. So since Satan was stripped of his power, what does he have to get you and I to do, right? And the reason why he was stripped, as you already know why, is because it actually wasn't Adam. If you go back and read it again, it was Adam who sinned, who chose to sin, and he was actually right there when Satan was talking to woman, man with a womb, the woman, the wombed man, right? So it wasn't the sin of commission. See, a lot of you are under guilt for committing sin. Yes, it is sin. And you got to repent. It means to change your thinking, do a U-turn, right? Ask for forgiveness, get it up under the blood, right? If you're spiritually dead and you don't know what I'm talking about, you just hang on. I'm coming to you here in a few minutes, okay? Now, so if you have, get back in the fellowship, get realigned with the king and his laws, okay? And you can get realigned, you'll feel better, right? See, when you sin, your spiritual cells act different, right? Your how can I put this? Mentally, you can understand that in your cellular structure when you sin, when you rebel against the king. Why? Because it's all programmed into us. Our physical cells match our spiritual cells, cell for cell. Oh, there's trillions of them. So I'm trying to get you to get this picture. You guys are smart. I know you're going to get it. You're going to get it. Sooner or later, you're going to get it. Keep listening, keep watching, keep reading. Captain Negative, I promise you. Ask the Lord to give the download to you this stuff, okay? Now, so getting back to Satan, and I'm going to be wrapping up here very shortly. All right. So Satan, again, was stripped because Adam, our forefather, gave him his authority. Now, here's where Satan's power is. I'm going to blow your mind with this. Here's where Satan's power is, okay? You're going to get this? Through your and I's lack of knowledge. Look up the word lack of knowledge. Look up the word knowledge. Knowledge. Know. Right? Information. But it's not information in general. You got to have the right information. Would you agree? So the contractor that we hired, right, and paid, okay, that he had to have X amount of knowledge to do the work. Right? And we were satisfied. We looked at it, went through it, he went over it. Hey, this is good, that's good. Yeah, we checked it over. Everything looks great. Right? At some point, I'll probably give him a shout out, get his permission to give a shout out. So if you guys in the area need a contractor, he does painting and everything. But I'm going to get his permission first. But anyway, so knowledge. He had to have the right kind of knowledge for the paint, the right kind of knowledge to do this and hang the shutters and do this door and everything like that, right? So if he had general knowledge, I would know that, right, as the person that hired him, because I would know he doesn't know what he's doing, but he had specific knowledge, okay? So the word knowledge also means information, but it also means light, right? So if you're a Christian in here, you were taught, just like I was years and years ago, that, you're the light of the world, and Jesus is the light of the world, Yeshua is the light of the world and everything, and he is. But see, what they were talking about, the way they were describe it in context was that he was light bulb on, light bulb off, right? Light on, light off. Clap on, clap off, right? But guess what he was talking about? He was talking about the opposite of light is darkness. Darkness means ignorance. So that's how Satan is able to do it. So what did he do? So guess is what he did. So Satan has two advantages over us, okay? Number one, after Adam rebelled, the Holy Spirit had to leave. The governor had to leave. The power had to leave. So now, Adam, and he called woman, he named her Eve, mother of all things, because this is after the fall. So now mankind is spiritually dead. Well, why did Adam live 929 years? So you got to remember, guys, go back to Genesis. Go back to Genesis. Go back. Read. Why am I keep saying this? because I got to get it into your head, just like it has to get pounded into my head, right? Go back. Okay? So why do we have to go back to Genesis? It's very simple. That's where Satan was stripped. Okay? That's how we get to where we are right now. So Satan knew, since he has the power, he has authority over the world system, the thinking of it, the thinking capacity, right? Spiritual death was remember this, I said Adam, right, down here, we're right here right now towards the 7,000 years. So spiritual death follows us and followed us through the womb, through the spiritual realm, right? Okay, because what? Everything produces after its own kind. Okay, follow me here. The law of sowing and reaping, right? You can't plant bananas and get oranges. You can't plant oranges and get acorns, right? Everything produces after its own kind. So the same thing with mankind. When the male and the female have relations, they produce offspring. It springs off out of them. Okay. So do ideas. Okay. Now check this out. Man, I hope you listen to this at least 3 or 4 times. Okay. Now, what does that have to do with mental health? Because, dear one, listen to me, brother, sister, listen to me. I don't care what religion you're in. This is what you were missing. Not that right there, but the kingdom message is what you were missing. It wasn't the cross, okay? The cross, yes, is part of the redemption plan. Redemption plan. He's trying to tell us something. Go back to Genesis, right? Understand that, the concept, okay? It's because of this, okay? How do I want to put this? Oh, please help me out, Holy Spirit. So since Satan was stripped, we didn't know that back then because we weren't born, right? This is almost 7,000 years way back then. So Satan knew, okay, I cannot murder Adam and Eve. I cannot murder his children. So what do I have to do? Aha, I know the kingdom concept. So I have to give them a religion. The first religion was hedonism. Okay, look it up. All right. And I have to get into their soul, their mind, right? Now, he was already in their spirit through spiritual death. He didn't have to get inside them. Some of them, they didn't have it. Some of those demons, you say somebody's demonically oppressed. Yes, there are demons in other people's spirit because they're spiritually dead. The Holy Spirit's not there anymore to occupy that space, right? If dirt is in a cup, right there, you can't put any more dirt in it. It's filled, right? You follow me now? Okay. So since the Holy Spirit, the governor, got recalled, right? That's an ambassador term, recalled to the headquarters, right? So now, guess what? Spiritual death gets passed along the whole human race for 4,000 years. Spiritually dead men and women producing offspring after their own kind. That's where you get the gangs, the mafias, the violence, the stealing, the murdering, the destroying, the incest, the pain, the poverty. That's where all that came from, right? If you have a rotten seed, you're going to have a rotten tree that bears fruit, right? Okay? You get what I'm trying to say? Okay. Just think on that a little bit for a few days, right? Okay? Whatever you don't understand, just shelve it and keep listening to it over and over and over again. Write down a lot of notes, okay? All right. Now, Satan knew we were going to be born, right? So since what he did is that he constructed all these different systems of rules called religions, from Christianity all the way down to over 200 or 300 religions, right? So we're all confused. You ever see, look up, you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but one of my great uncles, right? He had a farm, okay? And him or my aunt would go out there and, what do you think? You know, we're going to eat chicken tonight. So they go get a chicken, right? They get them here, grab a chicken, ring the neck. I remember, I like when my helpmate, she talks about her grandma did the same thing. Just jerk the neck, break the neck, put the chicken on the chopping block, right? Do all the stuff that they do to get the chicken ready, right? Okay. Didn't have to go through all these different chains of distribution, right? Get shot up with steroids and all the things like that, right? Pumped up with water, but that's a whole nother topic in itself. A lot of sickness and disease is caused by the foods in the water and the things in the air that are put on us on purpose, right? That are pumped into us on purpose. So you got to watch what you're eating too, okay? And watch what you allow people to put into your arms too, because you don't know, right? Anyway, so getting back to this, so mental health. So he knew we were coming, right? Okay. Since he knew we were coming, he created all those religions, as I said before. So now we're all confused, running around with chickens with their head cut off, right? Running back and forth. You're wrong. No, you're wrong. Blah, blah, blah. So the kingdom message, listen to me now, gets lost after a while through the lineage of Adam and Eve, okay? Right? The first murderer, right? Cain and Abel, right? And then on down the line, right? Stealing, murdering, lying, deceiving, destroying, all throughout Abraham and all that. And then to Abraham, and my Muslim, my Muslim brothers and sisters, okay? And I say that because they're part of mankind too, right? We all come through the same seed. Listen to me, okay? If you're Muslim faith, listen to me. Abram, all religions are, the cornerstone is Abram, right? Or Abraham. Okay, did you know that Abram's, going back before Abraham, before God changed his name, right? The father of many nations, Abraham's, I think it was his brother or one of his cousins, that's where Islam came from. Okay, and then they know if you knew that. Okay, they were Chaldeans. Look that up. Chaldeans. Chaldeans. You may have to dig a little bit, right, to go back, right? Because with these globalists all over the place and all this stealing, murdering, lying, cheating, destroying and everything, and changing boundaries and changing the calendar and changing different boundaries and stuff that God set into place for mankind himself, you know, things have been scrubbed from history and changed from history and everything like that. And that's why history is all messed up. That's why we weren't taught history in public schools. Why? Because if you dumb down the masses, they don't know when they're being ripped off. And that's why when I say certain things, people say, oh, he's a conspiracy theorist, right? That's a little CIA tactic. Conspiracy theorist. Well, that's in the U.S. code, right? Conspiracy, right? De facto government, right? Without fact. I'm throwing some side notes in there, side nuggets in there, right? Okay? That means without fact, okay? But there is a conspiracy, and it has to do with ideas, okay? So words come from ideas. Ideas come from the mind, right? So last but not least, let's take give me 5 minutes, guys. 5 minutes, okay? So now we're programmed according to who? The God of this world, Satan, right? We got spiritual death in us. You don't have to teach a baby how to steal, right? You don't have to teach a baby how to lie. 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. Did you do that? Right? Did you do that, Mass? See, why do we know that as little kids? Because spiritual death isn't not in the baby's spirit, because the baby's not at the age of accountability. See, a lot of you guys are wondering now. I used to wonder that also too, but that's also in the kingdom, because Paul the apostle said, I was alive once, but when sin revived, talking about spiritual death, when sin revived where? In my spirit, when I got the age of accountability, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, sin revived and I died. You should look that up. Okay, look up that scripture in the Constitution. I can't remember which book that was, just remember it here. Okay, so that's what was Paul talking about? He was talking about when he got to the age of accountability, spiritual death that was already in the flesh, right, permeated into his spirit. Okay, man, I hope you guys are getting it. This is good stuff. This is deep. This is deep, going way down the rabbit hole, but we all need this. We need to get back to the kingdom message, because this is what we're missing. You cannot find something you didn't lose. Okay? Different religions and different governments that aren't working. We have plenty of data looking at history that democratic republics don't work, right? That other Zionism and atheism and all these other different religions and governments don't work. It's because we know, listen to me, dear ones, we know that inside of here, in our spiritual cells, in the fiber of our being, something is missing, right? We know that that person wasn't supposed to die early. We know that we're not supposed to be poor. You know that you're not supposed to be sick or diseased. You know that that child is not supposed to be acting like that. You know that you're not supposed to be acting like that. You see what I'm trying to say? All this has to do with going back to Genesis, redeemed. So the king had to come into the form of Yeshua. He had to come through the womb, and he had to buy us back. He had to do it legally. He had to buy us back. What was the price? The price was his blood, right? The king had to empty himself, all his power and glory, and he had to come through the womb, right? The birth canal, okay? So Christmas is coming up, right? Now we're celebrating the king's birthday, Yeshua HaMashiach, right? And there's a lot of paganism and stuff around that. You know, it's been commercialized and everything like that. Hey, that's another way of how Satan works, through deception. I mentioned this last week, but it's through media, obviously, because he was the head of the Department of Worship. Okay. So in closing, I kind of went on some side notes, but you guys get what I'm saying. You guys are smart. All right. You guys are kingdom diplomats, right? Even if you aren't born again and you're spiritually dead, hopefully I know what I'm saying. If you have an open mind, right? If you have an open mind, I don't care how much money you have, because you can lose it tomorrow. And most of that money out there that you think you have is fiat money. It's fake, right? It's smoke and mirrors, right? If you want to know what real money is, or real natural resources, read the book of Genesis. The king puts it right there in his constitution, right? Some people do know that, even though they are religious. But you can lose that, right? Don't go to hell, which is jail, temporary place, for money. Okay, it's not worth it, right? See, what I learned to do is I learned to add value to myself and focus on the king and what he called me to do, which is, this is one of the things that I'm doing. I'm just obeying him. So I can care less whether you keep listening or care not. I mean, you know, I care for you, but whether you do it or not doesn't matter to me. I'm attracting the people who are open-minded. That's what I'm saying, right? Who may have the material things, but they're still depressed, right? Are you listening to me? They still got mental health problems, right? They're still doing things that they shouldn't do, looking at things they shouldn't do, saying things that they shouldn't say, right? Maybe you don't have the material, physical things, right? Maybe maybe your God is knowledge, education. Well, I'm a big brain, and I've been to this school and that school, and I'm just smart. I'm smarter than everybody, right? And you may be, right? Maybe you have some more gray matter than most people. Maybe you have some more gray matter than me. But guess what? That doesn't make you better than me, right? The way the king looks at everybody is everybody's on the same playing field. See, mankind, I made mankind in my image and in my likeness to function. So we're all on the same level. Angels are below us, right? And that's another topic in itself. You were born with an angel, right? If you're spiritually dead, you forfeited your angel. You got demons following you around or inside of you. If you're spiritually alive, you met the king, and you got washed in his blood, you have angels, right, that were assigned to you. And you got to know how to use the king's words, the laws, remember they're laws, and speak them out of your mouth, and it forces the angels to protect you. Okay? So mental health, that's why people are, for instance, the young man that just committed suicide, Marshawn for the Dallas Cowboys. Okay, if you don't know anything about American football, look it up. If you're in a different continent, okay, look it up. He just committed suicide. He was a baby. He was only 24 years young. He wasn't even at the starting line. He wasn't even at the starting line, right? He had so much potential, right? What happened, right? I know people personally. Some of my clients of some of my other businesses. One of my other clients did the same thing. You know, it hurt my heart because that person was the solution. Listen to me now. Was a solution just like you to a problem in their generation. Are you listening to me? You, me, are a problem or a solution, we're a problem for other people who are religious, right? And who don't like this message, right? And who don't want you to know who you truly are, okay? But we're a solution to a problem in our generation. Yes, you. I don't care how ugly you think you are. Maybe you're ugly. That's okay. You get where you're supposed to be at, right? You get in where you're supposed to be at, and guess what? Your gifts will come out, and you'll attract people and value. You increase your value, and money will come. People will come. Brothers and sisters will come to come take care of you. Why? Because you're feeding them the fruit, right? Now, don't mix that up, and I'm done. Don't mix that up after this. I'm done after this. Don't mix when you get into the right environment. How did I tell you get in the right environment? Slow down. Look at your habits and what you're doing on a daily basis. Look at your eating habits. Look at your listening habits. Look at what you're watching every single day. Because that is keeping you spiritually poor if you're spiritually dead. And if you're spiritually alive and you're still looking and listening to the wrong things, the Apostle Paul said to not to conform to this world. He's talking about the system, the thinking system. Why? He said, renew your mind based on what? The kingdom concept, right? The kingdom. Okay? This right here isn't a religion or a democratic republic, right? Sorry, President Trump. That's just what it is, okay? Still love you, brother, okay? Come holler at me sometime. All right, now, so in closing, mental health. What do? Here's the secret. I gave you a 4-formula secret. Look at my podcast probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I gave you a 4-step secret. How did I go from making $7.50 to 6+ figures, right? I'm still old. I'm in the process of being paid, right? To in the next 2 years, 7 figures. Probably in the next 3 to 4 years, 8 figures and possibly 9 figures and beyond, right? It's not about the money, folks. Notice I didn't mention money throughout the whole podcast. There's people out there that have a lot of money, but a lot of them committed suicide, right? They didn't know this. They didn't know who they were. Huh? They didn't know this. They didn't know this kingdom concept. They didn't know their identity, right? Who they were. They didn't know why they were here. Purpose. Are you listening to it? Write this down. Purpose. Identity. Write that down. The 5 most important vital questions that every human being needs to know. What? What else? Where am I from? Where am I from? Why am I here? Who am I? Listen, this skin color doesn't tell me who I truly am. Yeah, I have ancestry. Listen to me now. I have ancestry in Africa, even though that's not a real name, because Africa means a freak, a horror. The Romans called Africa that. Right? They called it that. Look it up. Look up the real name of Africa. It's called Akebulin. A-L-K-E-B-U-L-A-N. Akebulin. Right? See, I told you. You need to research. Okay? So this skin color is not who I truly am. It may be what this flesh man is, but the real me, remember what I said, is on the inside of me. Okay? So you have to think about it. I'm a 3-dimensional being. The core of me is my spirit, right? All right? I know you guys got that, okay? So, I'm bigger than a black man. I'm bigger than a brown man. You should say I'm bigger than a white man, a white woman, or Spanish, or whatever, okay? Listen, you should be a kingdom person. Listen, it's not about Democratic or Republic. See, they even labeled that. Now they got people fighting over stupid stuff when they all answer to the same boss, right? Or the same regime or whatever, shadow government people talk about, right? It's true, right? This is everything I'm telling you is true. You dig enough. If you want to know, you'll know. Oh, the law of integrity. That's what I want to tell you before. The law of holiness. So the king won't reveal to you anything voluntarily. You have to want it like I desired this years and years ago, 25 years ago, right? I got to a certain point in life. At that end, I said enough is enough, right? I had mental health problems. I thought about committing suicide years and years and years ago. Why? Because I didn't know the kingdom concept. My parents didn't know the kingdom. Nobody in my family knew that. I was just growing up in a bad environment, right? This was all messed up. And this is not perfect. I'm still learning, right? This kingdom concept and who I truly am as a king and an ambassador, right? Notice I didn't say Christian. Notice I didn't give all these different labels, right? This is all in the Constitution. Are you listening to me? Okay. Now, I know this is a shock to a lot of you. Well, my pastor said, hey, listen, you get into the book yourself. If your pastor ends up in hell, guess what? You're going to follow him because you listen to him. You can't blame the king when you stand before him in judgment. Are you listening to me? I can't. See, when it comes down, it's all about accountability, responsibility, right? You have to want it, desire it yourself. Some of you want it, but you don't desire it. Why? Because you're comfortable. But I'm going to tell you one thing right now. And here in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to give you guys some tips on how to create right where you are. I don't care how much money you have or don't have. I'm going to show you how to create some things right where you are and how to go run right through the worst financial collapse that's coming very soon. Okay? If you read enough and you have eyes to hear, if you have eyes to see, I told you I make up a bunch of stuff, and ears to hear, you will understand what I just said, right? You will see it's already out there, right? People are getting laid off. Companies are moving. Companies are closing down. This is happening. That happening. Long as government shut down, the signs are on the dashboard, right? Right? Something going wrong with your car, the dashboard's blinking. I mean, something's going wrong maybe with your engine or your tailpipe or whatever's going on, right? Your coolant, one of your sensors are going off for some reason, right? There's a problem coming, okay? Many of you know what I'm talking about. Some of you can feel it spiritually, right? Right? A lot of pressure, right? See, everything that happens, you got to remember what I said before. Whatever happens physically is actually coming from the spiritual realm. They're all interconnected, okay? All right, so where am I from? Okay, origin. I am a spirit. I am limitless, okay? The only reason why I live in this body, he put me here and he put you here in this body is he wants us to expand his kingdom from the unseen into the seen realm. That's it. A king, a kingdom, and his offspring, right? That's where we get all these different religions from with the help of Satan. This person's reading into this person. This person's trying to pull this out of this book. This person's doing this and doing that and doing that. Some people are building up religions so they can make money off of people, right? We think Scientology was created, right? You should look it up. That was the story. The guy that came up with Scientology. I forgot his name. But he said, hey, man, hey, bro, you want to make a lot of money? Yeah, you want to get rich? Yeah. Hey, you got to make up a religion. That's what they did, Scientology. Some of the actors that you like, and I like some of the actors. I don't like what they're doing and everything. They're wrong. But guess what they're doing? They're trying to search for the kingdom, right, that we were missing in the Garden of Eden in Genesis, right? Last but not least. So why am I here? Where am I going? Okay? Write that down. Where am I going? Vision. Sight is for sight. Vision is of the mind. Every human being, I don't like saying human being, that's wrong. Still being reprogrammed. All mankind. Why? Why did I say that? Because when you look up the word human and you break it down, it actually means sea monster. So that's why I don't like calling people sea monsters, right? See, I told you the English language is the most corrupted language. We were never really taught English language, right? So you have to do it yourself, right? Don't count on anybody else to do it. You do it yourself. Get a Black Laws book or look it up online. Download it. Black Laws book, 4th edition, okay? I revert to some of those terms, right? Get into this book. Look into the Hebrew, the Bible, right? The kingdom constitution of the kingdom of heaven in the invisible realm, the invisible country, right? The center of the universe. You want to know what the center of the universe is? The kingdom of heaven. That's where it all started, from the king, right? Yeah, Lee, I'm excited, can't you tell? Last but not least is what? Can you see that? What can you do? What's your talent? What's your talent? These are the 5 questions. Most people that ever existed 8.2 billion people. 8.2 billion people right now. Right? That doesn't even include the people. I don't even know if they even include the babies that they murder in the womb anymore. Right? I'm sure. Hopefully they do, but there's a lot of unaccounted for. So let's just say 8 plus 2 billion people. And all the billions before. I think I heard they calculated to be, based upon growth over the last 7,000, almost 7,000 years, about 118, 120 billion, somewhere around that area. All right, don't quote me on that. Okay, don't send me any, letters or anything like that, pigeons or lights in the sky or anything like that. No emails. I don't want to hear it. Okay, now don't quote me on that, but it's somewhere around that area. Most of them didn't know this. I didn't know that right there. For most of my life, about 90% of my life. So if you're younger than me, okay, if you're in your teens, 20s, 30s, early 40s, okay, man, I hope you look at this. Write that down. Define that right there. And you'll be well on your way. So I'm done, guys. I appreciate you listening to me. Come back next week, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Sometimes during the week, I like to drop some nuggets and everything like that. But here in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to share with you guys how to make next year and beyond in your life different. Okay, how to take some practical, strategic ways. I'm going to show you some strategies and everything that I've learned, okay? Being mentored by multi-millionaires, multi-millionaires and millionaires and thousandaires, and a lot of books that I've read, a lot of mistakes that I've made, things I learned from other people, all different. I'm gonna show you some very basic, constructive, practical stuff and give you some strategies of how, when this financial collapse comes, and when this civil war, when this world war, yes, you heard me say it, because we're in that cycle. That's how things work, cycles, okay? You can look up cycles. Look up the word cycle. I'm not talking about bicycle, although cycle's in it, but look up cycles. And within those cycles, there's patterns. If you study those things, right, you can predict, not to the T, but you can predict a season of when certain things are going to happen. So we're in the financial collapse cycle coming at the same time. We're in a civil war cycle, and we're in a world war cycle. And I'm going to show you how to go right through. I'm going to show you how to rise above it like an eagle. Did you know eagles can see, is it 5? I think it's 5. No, 1 mile away. Okay. So when storms come, let's say a hurricane's coming. Let's say the worst hurricane's coming. It's a category 5 plus. Do you know what an eagle does? First, the eagle's vision is immaculate, right? And God compares himself to eagles. Want to learn more about the character of God? Study eagles. Study lions, because that's in the Kingdom Constitution, right? I bet you never heard that preached. Anyway, okay, now, so they do not panic, right? You see me panicking? No, I'm not panicking. We didn't panic, although we were a little bit disoriented at the beginning of the pandemic of COVID. You know what I'm saying? But once I snapped out of it mentally, guess what? I reverted back to these principles, these 5 things, and the principles, the laws of the Bible. And guess what? We grew, right? We went down at first, and then we shot back up, right? Okay? Because we applied principles, we applied laws. So no matter what's going on outside, the hurricane coming, every wind's blowing, people losing their jobs, bankruptcy, this is happening. When you know these principles that I'm going to go over with you, okay, that I've been going with you, go back to some of my stuff, you will see you'll rise above it, right? Not saying you're not going to have any challenges, okay? Just like the eagle. The eagle waits for the wind, for that storm to come up on it, and it locks his wings, okay? And it has this air sac, right? Super air sac for its lungs, right? And when the draft comes, it hits and locks his wings, and it shoots it right above the hurricane. You know, when I heard that, I was like, whoa, that's how you do, guess what? Adversity, okay? That's how I've been able to bounce back. That's how I've been able to rise above, okay? Actually, let me tell you this quick story and I'm done, okay? I'm going to show you what I just said. I'm going to give you an example, okay? So a friend of mine, some years ago, I think it was about 3 years ago, I wasn't looking for this opportunity, but it fell into my lap. I'm so thankful for the person that referred me to it because it opened up some doors and some relationships that I'm very thankful for. Okay, so this is an actual. This happened 3 years ago, right? And actually, as little as a year and a half ago. So there was a guy talked a good game, gave all these promises, right? And he was a scam artist, right? Okay. Now, my helpmate, she picked up on it, after a little bit of time. And actually, my sponsor did also too. But I kept going. And you know how us guys were kind of hard headed. See, my eyes were focused on the money, right? It was focused on what I can, actually, not the money, but what I can get with the money, right? So, but anyway, I don't want to get into that. So, what happened is that I found out later on after some things happened and everything fell apart and he took off running like a scared chicken. But I found out that I was one of the people that came out on top. See, the money that I made in that field of endeavor, I think was over $23,000. Okay. And I don't know how many hours I put in. I probably put in maybe about 100 hours. Okay. So what is that? Like $2,300 an hour. Okay. How many people making $2,300 an hour? Right? I don't even know if surgeons are making that type of money. Okay. Now, I don't say that to brag. I say that to say this because what I just explained to you. I found out later on, talking to somebody from the inside later on, and this was involving lawyers and all that stuff, attorneys, all that stuff like that, that most of the people that were involved in there were made only 10% of that. And I was about $23,000, $24,000, right? Now, even though I was thinking with the wrong things up here about the money and looking what the money can get us, right? I had the right heart and I was wanting to help out a lot of people. I helped out a lot of people in the process. And I was able to be like the eagle and fly above the hurricane. All right. So hopefully that makes sense, guys. I'm sure it does. I know this is something that I just bestowed upon you. It was a pleasure. It was my favor to do that to you and gift it to you. This knowledge right here. Please, please, please don't take this knowledge for granted. I don't want you to say 2 years from now, I wish I shoulda, woulda, couldn't, but look at this situation. I didn't listen to Tyreek, right? Invest in yourself, cap the negative, and let's see what's truly on the inside of you. So I'm done, guys. And remember, your future's not ahead of you. It's actually trapped on the inside of you in the form of a seed. You got to get it in the right environment. Have a good night.